Welcome to The Choice. This is Kurt Doolittle, Episode 6, The Declaration Speech. Kin, countrymen, Christendom, lend me your ears. Truth. Truth is enough. Truth before face, regardless of cost, was enough to build our civilization. And truth again is enough to save it. So it's time for truth regardless of cost. Truth with men and for men with the metal to bear it. But why are we here? This in my hand. It's 5,000 years old. It's the record of our birth. It's the natural law. The natural law of self-determination, of sovereignty, reciprocity, and testimony. It is our law. It's the law of the European peoples. This law is not the work of man. It's the work of nature and nature's God. It's written in the hand of nature and nature's God throughout the fabric of the universe, including every cell in our bodies. This law was discovered by Europeans, by accident. And Europeans adapted to and applied it like we discovered, adapted to, and applied all other laws of nature and nature's God. This law, our law, well, it's not a plea, it's not a request, it's a demand. It says if we can cooperate with each other by sovereignty and reciprocity for mutual gain, we benefit each other and fulfill the demands of nature and nature's God by doing so. Conversely, if we do not or cannot cooperate with each other by sovereignty and reciprocity for mutual gain, then we have license from nature and nature's God to kill, conquer, pillage, loot, enslave, and serf, tax, farm, credit, domesticate, and if necessary, depopulate others, as punishment for the crime of irreciprocity that violates the law of nature and nature's God. Only Europeans discovered, adapted to, and applied this natural law. All other peoples failed to discover and adapt to and apply the natural law. All other civilizations before us and after us stagnated, declined, or failed because of that. This is why Europeans weren't always first, but always fastest. We adapted first and fastest to the law of nature and nature's God. But the natural law of sovereignty and reciprocity is a harsh law. Like most laws of nature and nature's God, this law is not made for the comfort of man, but for the evolution of man into a servant of nature and nature's God. This law is not kindly to man. This law is man's tragedy. But acceptance of that tragedy caused Europeans to birth the art of tragedy itself, and heroism, and excellence, and arts, and beauty, and joy in life, so that we might bear it. And we taught our generations the tragedy of Achilles for the strong who must fight for that law, and the tragedy of Jesus for the meek who must suffer under it. And we struggled heroically and endlessly despite this tragedies, as others shrunk in horror from that tragedy into pursuit of harmony, or escape, or denial, and the eventual regularity, stagnation, and decline their shrinking produced. Our American Constitution, like Mother England's before us, creates a government of rule of law by the natural law that constrains our actions, constructs our commons, and adjudicates our differences. No other people on this earth live under this law. Even Mother England lives under the sovereignty of Parliament, not sovereignty of law. For no other people is the natural law and the natural law alone sovereign, and no other people individually and collectively sovereign because of it. Because all other peoples failed, all others failed to remain sovereign, because all others failed to retain the arms, the will to use them, and the militia of every able-bodied man that's necessary for the preservation of that law against the endless river of usurpers whose arrogance and hubris denies the laws of nature and nature's God. So we and we alone live by a rule of law, and all other people are ruled by men. All but us, we Americans, we few, we happy few. But we were weak, or naive, or too patient, or too full of Christian tolerance, or too proud, or too confident. And the enemy within achieved our destruction by depopulation, by propaganda, by taxation, by credit, replacement immigration, what they could not achieve with their ideas and achievements. They achieved by destruction what they could not themselves make. And in this present age, as in the ancient world, they once again destroy what they themselves cannot make. They destroy what they cannot achieve. They destroy what they fail to understand. They destroy what they fear to face. That they hate and destroy Europeans for their works of law and nature's God. They hate us as a proxy for hating God. Rule of law no longer exists. The federal government is demonstrably unwilling and unable to govern, to protect life and property, cultural arts and assets, to provide equal protection under the laws, to protect freedom of political discourse, or even the most basic of civil order. If this government refuses to rule, to govern, to protect life, property, and commons, if this government has abandoned us, our law and God's law, then we have no choice but to declare this government incompetent, dissolved, and to set about restoring our rule of law, of natural law, our constitution under it, our rights within it, and those institutions to defend our life, property, and commons. And to restore rule of law by the people, for the people, as our Declaration, constitutions, ancestors, nature, and nature's God demand. The enemy among us is a master of technique of undermining civilizations. Russia fell by the same technique, for the same reasons, and many tens of millions died. China fell by the same technique, for the same reasons, and many millions died. Rome fell by the same technique, at the same rate, for the same reasons, and a dark age of over 1,000 years ensued, leaving behind it 1 billion dead. Because men of conscience would not do what they must to protect that rule of law, regardless of cost. Monuments say, I own this land. Castles, courts, and parliaments say, I rule this land. Temples and churches say, I rule these people. Removing monuments says, I have conquered this land. Occupying castles, parliaments, or courts says, I conquered this government. Building temples or destroying churches says, I conquered these people. If one comes upon a territory or its institutions or its people with conquest rather than accommodation and integration, then one comes by way of war. And the only response to war, regardless of its means, is war. So destroy our civilization once from within, destroy our temples, our statues, our arts, our letters, kill our philosophers, close our academies, burn our books of science, prevent our restoration of technology, and bring about a dark age, then shame on you. But destroy our civilization from within by the same means a second time, then shame on us, and we will not be shamed. So it's time for all good men to come to the aid of their country, their people, their civilization, and mankind, to save us from a false religion of lies, false promises, false possibilities, the hatred of our people, our civilization, the laws of nature and nature's God by which we live. A false religion of lies, false promises, false possibilities by which our enemies are inspired to destroy the treasury of our inheritance and our civilization's achievements. We must pay the price for those before us and those not with us by demand for correction. Correction by compromise, correction by exchange, or else correction by defeat. And with that correction, fortune willing, or by bloody civil war if fortune is not, we must restore rule of law by natural law, restore our sovereignty and reciprocity, restore our self-determination of our people, so that we may continue our discovery of, adaptation to, and application of the laws of nature and nature's God, not only for us and ours, but for all our people, across all our nations, across our civilization, and by extension, mankind. No cause is more just, no prosecution, restitution, and punishment, nor more deserved. So that we may have this debate and seek to come to a compromise rather than the bloodiest, longest, most brutal civil war in human history, where tens of millions will certainly die. 1, all political speech is protected, and political affiliation is now a protected class. 2, we will criminalize all attempts at suppression of testimonial, truthful, reciprocal speech, and we will license extrajudicial punishment to cease it. 3, the immediate implementation of the rule of non-aggression and the extension of standing one's ground and the castle doctrine in defense of the commons to the first demonstration of aggression. No more lies. We will choose our destiny by honest discourse or by honest violence, but not by restraint of violence, intolerance for lies. So one and all, we invite you to read, understand, and sign. Or we shall all suffer the consequences if you don't, because under no conditions will the enemy destroy us again. They will not destroy us as they had Russia, China, South America, or have in the supernatural dress the great civilizations of the ancient world, because we are men. We are men of the West. We shall not repeat the mistake of the Romans, and this time we shall do our duty regardless of cost. Revolution comes. Join us. We're doing something.